In 2011, country music legend Glen Campbell stood on a stage, guitar in hand, ready to perform the songs that made him famous. But backstage, moments before, he had turned to his wife and asked, "What am I doing here?" This wasn't stage fright. This was the beginning of Glen Campbell's most courageous performance, a farewell tour while battling early-stage Alzheimer's disease. While millions watched him perform his classics like Rhinestone Cowboy, few knew the heartbreaking reality happening behind the curtain. Today, I'm revealing the dark truth about Glen Campbell's final battle, one that would change how the world sees Alzheimer's forever. The first signs were subtle. Glen Campbell would tell the same story twice in a conversation. He'd struggled to remember names of longtime friends. His wife, Kim, noticed he'd become frustrated trying to recall simple words. These moments were initially dismissed as normal aging. After all, Campbell was in his 70s and had lived a full life on the road. But in 2009, during performances, something more concerning began happening. Campbell would sometimes turn to his bandmates mid-song with a confused expression, momentarily forgetting where he was in the music. For a musician of his caliber, someone who had been part of the legendary Wrecking Crew session musicians in the 1960s, these lapses were alarming. I remember one night he played the same guitar solo twice in one song, recalled his daughter Ashley, who performed in his band. Dad was always such a perfectionist about his music. That's when we knew something was really wrong. The family convinced Campbell to see specialists, and after extensive testing, doctors delivered the devastating news in early 2011. Glen Campbell had Alzheimer's disease. The progressive, irreversible condition would gradually destroy his memory and cognitive functions. There was no cure, only medications that might temporarily slow its progression. For many celebrities, such a diagnosis would prompt an immediate retreat from public life. Privacy during such a vulnerable time would seem the obvious choice. But Campbell and his family made a decision that shocked the music industry. They would not only continue performing, but they would announce his condition to the world. "We decided to go public with the diagnosis because we didn't want people to think, 'What's wrong with Glen? He's drunk. He's on drugs,'" Kim Campbell later explained. "We wanted them to know the truth." This transparency was virtually unprecedented for a celebrity of Campbell's stature. In 2011, Alzheimer's still carried significant stigma, and few public figures had ever chosen to document their battle with the disease so openly. The announcement came alongside news of the Goodbye Tour, a planned series of concerts that would serve as Campbell's farewell to fans. The decision wasn't made lightly. Doctors warned the family that performing could become increasingly difficult and unpredictable. The stress of touring might accelerate his symptoms. There would be good days and bad days with no way to predict which version of Glen would show up on any given night. Yet Campbell himself was adamant about continuing to perform while he still could. "I ain't done yet," he told his family with characteristic determination. "I've got more music in me." What no one could have predicted was how this decision would transform not just Campbell's final chapter, but public understanding of Alzheimer's itself. By choosing visibility over secrecy, Campbell was about to embark on perhaps his most important performance, showing the world what living with dignity despite Alzheimer's could look like, even as the disease began to take its toll behind the scenes. As the Goodbye Tour began in 2011, few could have imagined the powerful moments, both triumphant and heartbreaking, that would unfold on stages across America as one of country music's greatest talents performed while slowly losing his grip on the very memories that made him who he was. When the Goodbye Tour kicked off in February 2011, no one, not even Campbell's family, knew exactly what to expect. Initially planned for a modest 5-week run, it expanded to over 151 shows spanning more than 2 years as word spread about Campbell's courage. On stage, Campbell often appeared remarkably present. His muscle memory for guitar solos remained largely intact, his fingers finding the right notes even as other memories faded. During his best moments, audiences could almost forget what was happening to him. Music is a part of the brain that's affected last by Alzheimer's. Neurologist Dr. Ronald Peterson explained, "The musical memory is preserved longer than other memories." Behind the curtain, a different reality played out. Campbell required teleprompters for lyrics to songs he'd performed thousands of times. His children, Ashley, Cal, and Shannon, joined his touring band not just as musicians, but as guardians, ready to step in when their father became disoriented. Sometimes he'd turn to me during a guitar solo and whisper, "What song are we playing?" Ashley Campbell recalled. I'd whisper back the title, and somehow he'd find his way through it. The tour became increasingly challenging as months passed. Campbell would sometimes grow frustrated or confused on stage. During a performance in Napa, California, he stopped mid-song and told the audience, "I forget the words." Rather than hiding these moments, the family embraced them, and audiences responded with standing ovations. Not out of pity, but genuine appreciation for Campbell's courage. Backstage, the situation was often more difficult. Campbell experienced sundowning, a symptom where confusion worsens in the evening, precisely when most concerts took place. There were nights when he didn't understand why he needed to go on stage. His family would gently remind him who he was and why people had come to see him. The physical toll of touring compounded the challenges. Travel disrupted Campbell's routine, crucial for Alzheimer's patients. Hotel rooms confused him. He would sometimes wake not knowing where he was. The family developed elaborate systems, notes on doors, familiar objects, to help orient him. Despite these difficulties, Campbell found joy in performing. Music seemed to temporarily clear the fog of his condition. When he connected with an audience, his eyes would light up with recognition, even if he couldn't remember what city he was in. As the tour continued into 2012, the family faced a difficult decision as Campbell's condition deteriorated. Should they end the tour while he could still perform relatively well? The answer would come from an unexpected source, a documentary film crew that had begun capturing their journey in intimate detail. What began as a simple recording of Campbell's farewell tour evolved into something much more significant. Filmmaker James Keach approached the Campbell family about documenting the goodbye tour, eventually creating Glen Campbell, I'll Be Me, a groundbreaking film that would force America to confront the realities of Alzheimer's disease. The documentary crew captured moments of brilliance on stage, but more importantly, they recorded the unvarnished truth of Campbell's decline. The cameras rolled as he struggled to recognize old friends, became disoriented in familiar places, and experienced the frustration of losing his memories. In one poignant scene, Campbell watches old footage of himself performing and remarks, "That's a good singer," not recognizing himself. "We had to make a decision about how much to show," Kim Campbell explained. "Do we protect Glen's dignity by hiding the worst moments? Or do we tell the whole truth about this disease?" Glen always said he wanted people to know what Alzheimer's really does. The family chose transparency, believing that showing Campbell's struggle would help destigmatize Alzheimer's. This decision wasn't without controversy. Some critics questioned whether continuing to film as Campbell's condition worsened was exploitative. Others wondered if Campbell, in his diminished cognitive state, could truly consent to having his decline documented so publicly. The filming process became increasingly challenging. Campbell would sometimes become agitated by the cameras, not understanding why they were following him. The crew developed techniques to film unobtrusively, sometimes introducing themselves repeatedly as if meeting Campbell for the first time each day. By 2013, as the tour entered its final stages, Campbell's performances became more erratic. During his last shows, his children had to guide him through almost every moment on stage. Yet somehow, when it came time for guitar solos, his fingers still found the right notes, a testament to how deeply music was embedded in his being. The documentary captured one final heartbreaking milestone, Campbell's last recording session. In 2013, he entered the studio to record "I'm Not Gonna Miss You," a song about his battle with Alzheimer's. This powerful farewell would earn him his final Grammy Award and an Oscar nomination, even as the man who created it was slipping away. As filming concluded and the tour ended, the Campbell family faced their next challenge. The difficult decisions about Glen's care. His condition continued to deteriorate rapidly, leading to controversies that would divide the family and become public in unexpected ways. After the goodbye tour ended in 2013, Glen Campbell's condition deteriorated rapidly. The documentary had finished filming, the spotlight had dimmed, and now the family faced their most challenging chapter, providing round-the-clock care for a man who was becoming increasingly confused, agitated, and sometimes combative. Kim Campbell made the difficult decision to place Glen in a memory care facility in Nashville in 2014. "I never dreamed I would have to put my husband in a nursing home," she told People magazine. "It's the last thing I wanted to do, but I couldn't care for him properly anymore. He became combative and wouldn't let me help him with basic things." This decision sparked a public family feud that exposed the painful realities many families face when dealing with Alzheimer's. Campbell's oldest children from previous marriages, Debbie and Travis, publicly criticized Kim's decision, claiming they weren't properly informed about their father's care and were being prevented from visiting him. "My dad deserves better than this," Debbie Campbell told Country Weekly. "I'm not saying it's bad for everyone, but for my dad, we can take better care of him at home." The dispute became so contentious that in 2015, Tennessee passed a bill nicknamed the Glen Campbell-Peter Falk Bill, which prevents conservators from restricting access to a ward by family members. The legislation highlighted how Campbell's situation had transcended personal family matters to influence public policy. Kim defended her decisions, explaining the realities of caring for someone with advanced Alzheimer's. "It's a 24-hour job. Glen would get up in the middle of the night and wander. He fell and hit his head in the bathtub. He would have outbursts and throw things. It was becoming dangerous." Medical experts supported Kim's decision, noting that professional memory care facilities are often better equipped to handle the complex needs of advanced Alzheimer's patients. Dr. Ronald Peterson, Campbell's neurologist, explained, "As Alzheimer's progresses, patients often need specialized care that's difficult to provide at home, no matter how loving the family." The controversy highlighted the impossible choices families face when caring for loved ones with dementia. There are no perfect solutions, only difficult trade-offs between safety, quality of life, and family wishes. In the memory care facility, Campbell's musical abilities continued to be his connection to the world. Staff members would give him a guitar, and he could still play, even when he could no longer speak coherently. Music therapists worked with him regularly, finding that familiar songs could temporarily bring clarity and calm. As Campbell's condition worsened, the family disputes gradually faded from public view. In his final years, the focus shifted to ensuring his comfort and dignity. Despite their differences, all members of the Campbell family shared one common goal: honoring the legacy of a man who had given so much to music and, in his final chapter, to raising awareness about Alzheimer's disease. When Glen Campbell passed away on August 8, 2017, at age 81 after 6 years of living with Alzheimer's, the music world mourned not just a legendary performer, but a pioneer who had changed how we view and discuss this devastating disease. His courage in facing Alzheimer's publicly would leave a lasting impact far beyond his musical achievements. Glen Campbell's decision to share his Alzheimer's journey publicly transformed how America views the disease. Before Campbell, Alzheimer's was often hidden away, a condition families dealt with privately, behind closed doors. His openness helped bring the disease out of the shadows and into national conversation. "What Glen did was revolutionary," said Harry Johns, president and CEO of the Alzheimer's Association. "By putting a face to this disease, not just any face, but that of a beloved celebrity, he helped millions of families feel less alone and brought unprecedented attention to the need for research and support." The documentary I'll Be Me became more than just a film. It became an educational tool. After its theatrical release in 2014, it was screened at medical schools, senior centers, and even in Congress. In June 2015, Campbell's wife Kim testified before the Senate Special Committee on Aging, using footage from the documentary to illustrate the devastating impact of Alzheimer's on families. This testimony helped secure a historic $350 million increase in Alzheimer's research funding in the 2016 federal budget. Senator Susan Collins cited Campbell's story specifically when advocating for the funding boost, saying, "Glen Campbell's brave battle has shown us all the devastating toll this disease takes not just on those who suffer from it, but on their families as well." Campbell's final song, "I'm Not Gonna Miss You," offered a heartbreaking perspective on Alzheimer's that resonated deeply with both the public and critics. The song won a Grammy Award for Best Country Song and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Song. Its unflinching lyrics, "You're the last person I will love, you're the last face I will recall," and best of all, I'm Not Gonna Miss You, gave voice to the unique grief of Alzheimer's, where loss happens gradually in plain sight. Perhaps most importantly, Campbell's journey helped reduce the stigma surrounding Alzheimer's. By showing that someone could continue to live with purpose and dignity after diagnosis, he challenged the notion that an Alzheimer's diagnosis was an immediate end to meaningful life. The impact extended beyond awareness to tangible support for caregivers. After witnessing the challenges Kim Campbell faced, she founded careliving.org, a website dedicated to supporting Alzheimer's caregivers. Glen's legacy isn't just about music, Kim explained. It's about helping families navigate this difficult journey with more resources than we had. Medical professionals noted a significant increase in early diagnoses following Campbell's disclosure. Dr. Ronald Peterson, who treated Campbell, observed, "We saw more patients coming in earlier, saying I'm having memory problems like Glen Campbell." His openness made people more willing to seek help instead of hiding symptoms out of shame. The Rhinestone Cowboy had taken on his most important role, not as a musician, but as an advocate who forever changed how we understand and talk about a disease affecting millions of families worldwide. His courage in facing Alzheimer's publicly will likely save countless lives through earlier intervention and increased research funding. While Campbell's Alzheimer's advocacy became his final legacy, his musical contributions during this period deserve special recognition. His 2011 album, Ghost on the Canvas, recorded shortly after his diagnosis, stands as a poignant musical testament to his awareness of what was happening to him. The album, featuring songs written by Paul Westerberg, Jakob Dylan, and other admirers, deals directly with themes of mortality, memory, and legacy. The title track includes the haunting lyrics, "I know a place between life and death for you and me," a line that takes on profound meaning in the context of his diagnosis. Even more remarkable was Campbell's 2013 album, See You There, which featured stripped-down versions of his classic hits. Recording these familiar songs became increasingly challenging as his condition worsened. Producer Julian Raymond described the sessions. "Sometimes he'd forget what song we were doing mid-take. We'd gently remind him, and somehow he'd find his way back into it. His musical instincts remained intact even when his memory was failing." The most extraordinary musical moment came with I'm Not Gonna Miss You, co-written with Raymond for the documentary. Campbell recorded it knowing it would likely be his final song. The recording session, captured in the film, shows Campbell struggling to remember lyrics between takes, yet delivering a powerful vocal performance when the tape rolled. He would sometimes forget he had Alzheimer's, Raymond recalled. He'd ask why we were writing this song about memory loss, and we'd have to remind him. Then he'd say, "Well, let's make it a good one," and dive back in. The song's brutal honesty, acknowledging that the blessing of Alzheimer's is eventually forgetting the pain of your own decline, resonated with millions. Music critic Ann Powers called it the most truthful song ever written about Alzheimer's disease. Campbell's musical farewell also included his children. Daughter Ashley, who toured with him during the Goodbye Tour, released her own tribute song, Remembering, in 2015. The heartbreaking lyrics, "Daddy, don't you worry, I'll do the remembering," captured the perspective of family members who bear the burden of maintaining memories as their loved ones lose them. Throughout his career, Campbell had always been respected as a musician's musician, a virtuoso guitarist who could play anything from country to classical. But in his final musical chapter, he achieved something perhaps more meaningful. He used music to articulate the experience of cognitive decline in a way that words alone never could. As country star Brad Paisley noted after Campbell's death, "Glen's last recordings are some of the most honest music ever made. He turned his greatest challenge into his greatest contribution. That's what true artists do." Campbell's musical journey with Alzheimer's reminds us that art can emerge from the darkest circumstances, and that even as memories fade, the emotional power of music can remain. For a man who had spent his life making music, it was fitting that songs would be both his greatest comfort and his final gift to the world.